here's a question I think a lot of you have sometimes, and it's a hard question to ask. How do you have two salespeople, right, like two agents, with the same amount of activity on the same system, but with very different results? Did we see that a lot?
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just going to use people as an example. I'm not calling anybody out, but you got Kenny and Mark, right? And Kenny and Mark, over a 4-week period of time, they go out, they do their pack calls, they do their research, it looks good. They got routes, looks okay. They do their 60 walk-ins, right? But then that's about the point where it changes, right? Like you have these two identical agents, but it kind of changes right there. All of a sudden, like, Mark might talk to, 25 decision makers, right? And Kenny might talk to 15. But then that's what's interesting about that is that might change again. Kenny might talk to 15 and have closed 3 cases. And Mark might have talked to 25 DMs and closed 1. Right? Do we see that sometimes? Do you guys agree? Right? And I think that's one of the hardest questions to answer, right? Especially if you're in management and especially with new agents who come to you. And a lot of times new agents come to you and they'll go, well, I'm doing everything you told me to do, right? But I'm not getting the result. And, you really don't know what to say. Now, home office and corporate always trains like, go back to the numbers, right? See what script they need to work on, right? Right? But is that always the answer? Right. So I try to answer the question. And that was really challenging, trying to answer the question about how two agents with the same activity and the same want can end up with different results, right? So what I discovered, the only thing I can do is give you some advice on some things maybe you should adjust or try, right? Because I can only do assumptions about what you're doing at those different steps, right? So I wrote them out. All right, number 1, stop being like everybody else, okay? So let's picture for a second what everybody else is. Most people out there are doing the same version of the same thing, okay? So they get in front of a prospect, they get excited, well, we used to call it getting in the ether, they pitch whatever they can, right? And it's the same thing over and over every week, the same result. Here's what I mean by that. The typical walk-in goes like this. They walk in. Is John available? Right? Isn't that 90% of walk-ins? Yeah. It's not necessarily the system, it's not the process. It's not, hey, how you doing today? Man, this is a beautiful facility, or whatever you want to do to kind of build rapport, or blah, blah, blah. Regardless of how they react, right, you need to throw out your blessings. All right? It's the same as like, if we're out downtown and, I have some cash in my pocket and I see a homeless person, I'm probably going to give them some money, right? And even if or after I give them money, they run into the liquor store and buy some liquor, right? I'm not judged by that, right? I'm judged by giving. Like I'm blessed because I gave, not because of what he did with it. Do you see what I mean? So who am I to be judging what they're going to do with it? Maybe they are hungry, right? Maybe they are thirsty. Maybe the liquor store is the closest thing to drink, right? Sometimes I can just say, I understand, right? But it's the same thing. When you do a walk-in, right, 90%, 99%, I'd say 99% of salespeople who are doing business-to-business sales, right, are doing the same thing. They're just getting to the punch. They're just walking in, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. And the lady's like, he's not available. And they go, okay, thanks, and walk out, right? Is that pretty typical, you think? Yeah. Right? Or maybe it's this. We walk in, hey, oh, I see you have some kids here. Are these your kids? Are these your grandkids? Those are my kids. You know what I mean? You messed it up right off the bat. Damn, right? Right? Oh, okay. They look great. Are they smart? They're smarter than you, right? Oh, okay, thank you. These are unavailable, right? So like you maybe you go in, you try to build rapport, right? But you're just bad at it, right? But here's the funny thing: you're bad at it. You walk out to your car and you're like, damn, I'm really bad at that, right? But you don't do anything to improve on it. Do you see what I mean? You're not doing anything to improve on that. Is that typical, right? Like right now, if we could follow we got one of those cops video cameras and put it on salespeople, right? That would be the most interesting YouTube channel ever, right? Like